Dungeons and Dragons is an incredibly fun and rewarding game, but you need a character to play. And for beginners, making a character is one of the biggest challenges when trying to get into Dungeons and Dragons. So in this video, for beginners, I'm going to be showing you how to make a Dungeons and Dragons character. So, while there are numerous source books that you could use, this video is only going to be using stuff from the player's handbook. Now, for this video, we're going to be making a level 1 cleric of the wood elf race. And then background is really just flavor for your character. You can really pick what anything you want, but for this video, we're going to be doing acolyte. Now, alignment, player name, experience points, character name, those all come later. This video will be going in order of how you should do it. Go to page 23. That's where you'll get all of the elf traits. It starts with an ability score increase. A classic elf increases their dexterity by 2. Now, if I were on paper, I would write the 2 to the left of the box, but since I'm not, I'm just gonna put 2 in dexterity to remind me. Speed. Speed is how fast you go. An elf's regular speed is 30 feet. Dark vision, it goes in your features and traits. Keen senses, which gives you proficiency in the perception skill. Make that colored in, which shows that you have proficiency. Fey ancestry. Trance. Next, languages. Languages go in this box. It says other proficiencies and languages. Now you get into your subrace. As I said earlier, we're doing wood elf. You get another ability score increase, this time in wisdom, and only a +1. So mark that any way you will. Elf weapon training. You have proficiency with the longsword, short bow, and longbow. So that goes in your other proficiencies and languages. You're able to use them well, and that if you have them, you add your proficiency when making attacks. Fleetfoot, which just means your base walking speed is 35 feet. Mask of the Wild. We move on to class. The cleric class starts on page 56. Now, it says that you want wisdom to be your highest. So just in this little box, I'm just going to mark that with a +. Then we're going to mark strength and constitution as well, because we also want those to be pretty high. Hit dice are an interesting aspect of Dungeons & Dragons. It's basically how you heal during a short rest. In a different video, we'll talk about the different types of rests, but just know you expend hit dice when you take a short rest to heal. They're not super important when creating a character. At level 1, a cleric would have 1d8 hit dice. Next thing, we look at proficiencies. Proficiencies are different across every D&D class. In simple terms, it just determines what you're good at doing. It's what you're proficient in. This can be weapons, abilities, tools. It's just different per class. And that's one of the things that makes every different player unique. You get different proficiencies. Now we get into equipment. Mace, scale mail. Now that we've chosen our armor, it means we can do our armor class, which we're just going to mark as 14 for now because we haven't done our score yet. But it is technically 14 plus dex. Crossbow. Priest's Path. Shield. Spell casting. So, clerics can cast spells. Their spells come from a deity. The cleric has a certain number of spell slots based on the level. At level 1, the cleric knows 3 cantrips and then has 2 first level slots. What type of domain, divine domain, you're going to pick? There are many divine domains, and these just grant you extra spells that are always prepared, and then 1 other ability, I believe. The divine domain of the cleric is the cleric's subclass. Every class has a subclass which differentiates it from another of the same class. For cleric, that's divine domain. Each class gets their subclass at a different level, often sometime between level 1 and level 3. The subclass is meant to make your character unique so that you feel different if you have another cleric in the party. The subclass scales as you level up, so even if the first ability you get isn't that good, you'll get more abilities as it changes. If you're interested in knowing more about each subclass of a particular class, RPGbot.net does a really great breakdown of all of the subclasses. This seems like a great time to get your abilities. In Dungeons & Dragons, there are 6 abilities that you have to roll for that are the base for all of the things your character can do. These abilities are Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma, each one relating to a different aspect of your character. There are multiple different ways to roll for these abilities, but my favorite is 4d6 drops, where you take 4 6-sided dice, your classic board game die, and you roll them and then get rid of the lowest. On screen now, you should see a chart. That's the amount that the value you get relates to, and depending on what you get, that's what your bonus to that check will be. 10, 13, 9, 13, 6, and 15. Nothing outlandishly bad, nothing outlandishly good. Now, what you want to do now is in the small box, you put your score. Every D&D class has a certain number of skills that are supposed to be the class's highest. As mentioned earlier, with the pluses, for cleric it's strength, wisdom, and constitution, wisdom being the highest one. So plug your highest scores into whichever the book says should be the highest. All other scores will just be determined by the type of character you want to play. This cleric is going to be stupid because we have to give something a 6. At first level, proficiency is +2 for everything, no matter what. So just mark that right in there. Initiative is dexterity. Hit points are 1d8 plus con. This is all stuff you can choose, which is super easy, and on the equipment page we'll show you exactly what to do, except for attack bonus. Attack bonus is either strength or dex, and it's plus proficiency if you're proficient in it. If you want to play an acolyte, you go to page 127 and it'll show you the proficiencies that you have. Those are the most powerful, because then personality trait, ideals, bonds, and flaws are stuff you want to pick for yourself. Skill proficiencies, languages, and equipment. The proficiencies for languages, 2 of your choice. So talk to your dungeon master about the languages that are in your world, what your dungeon master thinks will be the best. Your background is supposed to add more flavor to your character, where you came from before this adventure started. Each background in the player's handbook and in all of the source books give you a different set of proficiencies and a different set of equipment. So you should choose not based on the equipment, but based on your story, the story you want your character to tell. Because not everyone wants to be an acolyte. An acolyte is just what I chose for this video. Plug in all of your values. Your score is 8+ Constitution. They don't want you having barely any hit points at level 1. The chart on screen shows the value of each rolled ability score and how it relates to the bonus you add when rolling a check for that skill. It's pretty straightforward. Just check what you rolled and plug that into the small box, and then the big box is the bonus that corresponds with the chart on screen. Now that you have all of these, you just plug them in to your saving throws. Real quick for Acolyte, they had proficiency in Insight and Religion, but you don't get double proficiency. You have to go back to Cleric and pick a different one, and for this we'll just switch it over to Persuasion. Now that just means you add 2 to everything that has a dot in them. If you don't have a dot, you just plug in the value next to it. Every D&D subskill is related to one of the big 6 skills. That value goes into the box unless you're proficient, in which case you add your proficiency bonus. And that's all of the things that I can help you with. Everything else is how you want to play your character. These are just a couple of little tweaks that make it easier to use the character. So that's how you make a character. This is the last thing we'll do. Spell save DC is 8 plus proficiency plus spell mod, which for you is, as a cleric, would be wisdom. So that means your spell DC is 10 plus 3, so at level 1 it's 13. And then attack bonus is just proficiency plus wisdom, so plus 5. Many spells that make attack rolls will use this value. Hope this helped you make a D&D character more easily.